Welcome back to the 365 Driven podcast. Today we've got a great guest that's a exemplary leader in many different capacities in entrepreneurship and public service. And I wanted to bring him in here. I actually met this guy at a car show. We're hanging out and I saw this guy and we're talking about cars and it's like I could tell this guy's got some good core values just like I do because he's an older guy, he's still fit and he's talking about business and he's got nice cars and his wife was with him at the time, Michelle, and got to meet her. And it was a cool first meeting. And we've kind of run into each other a few times at different car shows here in the Woodlands, Texas area. And it's time to get him on the show to talk about what he's doing best. So Adam Lamb, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me on the show. And yeah, I think if I can talk about cars and business and leadership, and listen, I'll tell you something that the fact that you pointed out, I was with my wife, it matters because some people don't like this conversation, but I judge a lot of men by how they interact with their wife. Like just to start the conversation, maybe uncomfortable is like, if you're a different man when your wife's around versus when she's not around, it's a red flag. And so I think you get to see the true man when their spouse is with them. And that's like if I'm doing business with somebody or going to, like, I want to meet your wife. I want to see who you might be when they're around too. Like you mentioned, that made me think of it.
No, that's a good topic. I've actually heard that before and I very much agree with that. And I also would add another layer to that is if they're not with their wives, I always say go do an interview or a first meeting at a restaurant because I want to see how they treat the service,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah. Are they present? Are they on their phone? Like there's so many things that when we're in a position to perform, right? Like even this podcast, right? Like if I were on the phone and I was like, here you go, what is wrong with this guy? But some people don't have that self-awareness. And then it's like, man, this is going to be a complicated partnership or relationship. And so just that engagement matters. Actually, there's a guy I was looking to maybe support in the political arena and I wanted to just spend time with him. We went and shot some clays at this event. And so I just want to see, it's easy when we're performing to one another and almost like interview style, but how do you react in this? Right. And it's like, and the guy did great. Like we connected, present. I felt, it wasn't showing. He was just, I got to see an authentic version of him and that matters. Right. And I think going down the path of leadership, which we'll get into this conversation, is being able to see the forest through the trees with people can save you a lot of time and heartache and find great people, A players to be on your team as well.
Well, I think the only thing that I would change at a car show, if you were to see me with my wife, is I probably wouldn't be there as long.
Right.
She handles about 30 minutes, maybe an hour, and she's like, "Can we go do something else?" But
That's funny.
she loves cars, but she can't sit there and just yap about cars with people and look too many cars. So yeah, that's kind of funny.
Yeah. I would probably the same, but find something else to do. Look at
Yeah.
it and keep moving.
That's it. So give me some backstory because I don't know much about where you came from or what got you into the direction that you're going or the businesses that you went into. Because for you guys that don't know, he got really into the healthcare businesses, but I want to hear the story leading up to that.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. I grew up, was born in Pontiac, Michigan. Right. So,
All right. No wonder you're a car guy, Detroit area, right?
yeah, for sure. So I grew up around a lot of Detroit muscle, which made me gravitate more to the exotics because we always focus on what we don't have. But yeah, I didn't see a Lamborghini in person until I think I was like in my 20s. But I grew up in Michigan, raised single mom. Dad took off when I was 7, so I didn't have much leadership. And probably for the better. I think he wouldn't have been a good influence. Single mom, she's a secretary, did everything she could to provide for my younger brother and I, and kind of figured it out. I was a rebellious young person, which I think served me a little bit later, meaning I'm not following the path you tell me to follow. I'm going to go figure out my own way, which can be a bad path. But if you have good leadership, it's a bad path. If you have bad leadership, sometimes it's good to find your own way. And I barely graduated high school and I worked in nightclubs and just kind of chasing the world, partying. Like I was making 80 grand a year cash, driving a Cadillac, working in some of the biggest nightclubs in Detroit. I was like, this is
Yeah.
well, man.
High speed, high action lifestyle. Huh?
Yeah. And then I met my wife and I was like, wait a minute, this is a high caliber woman. Maybe I actually want to get married. Maybe I actually do want to have, because I had this story in my head of like marriages all end and I didn't have a good childhood. So why would I want to bring some kid into this world? I think a lot of people have that story.
Mhm.
But my heart was to like, I actually wanted those things. I wanted a great marriage. I wanted to be a great father. I wanted to have great impact in the world and build stuff. And so through her, started to see that shift I had some friends that worked at a mortgage company. It's called Quicken Loans. You probably heard of it.
Yep.
But before that, it
Yep.
was called Rock Financial, just brick and mortar, traditional, wear a suit like a bank type thing, meet people and sign paperwork. And then they transitioned to being a brick and mortar to like the largest online lender in the country.
Mm.
So I got to see that transformation. I was good at it. I was good at sales, good at getting to know people. I enjoyed that role, but my passion was health and fitness. So like even in high school, like it's what I loved about it is like, you can be poor and still be in shape. I mean, like
True.
it's, you're not like malnourished, but like you can still work out. You can still, I was driven. It was like something I was like, you can't buy this. You
No.
can't buy fitness. You have to do it. I don't care how much money you have. You have to put in the work. And I like that about it. So I was really attracted to it. But we grew up in an era of like Stallone, Schwarzenegger, like all these guys, Chuck Norris. Like I want to be like these guys. Like, how do you get muscle? How do you do it? So I really liked health and fitness. And again, I barely graduated high school, couldn't get past pre-algebra hardly, failed every language arts class I ever had. The story in my head was I hate school. I hate learning, but I just wasn't learning anything I liked. I don't want to read men. I want to read like how the body works and nutrition. So I really started self-educating. So I was really passionate about health and fitness. And so I'll tie these two together. So at Quicken Loans, working in our headquarters, we had a gym there, and like guys like Dan Gilbert, who's like the CEO, the owner, like some of these executives of the company, they were like, hey man, you're fit, you carry your food around. Like, what are some of your hacks? And so some of these guys wanted to pay me to help kind of like advise their health. And I'm like 26, 27, 28. And so I'm helping them along the path. And these guys are in their 40s and 50s, which I'm 46 now. And they kept asking more questions. And I was learning about hormone and how testosterone declines and all that kind of stuff. Done a ton of research, had issues myself. Even when I was young, I had low testosterone. I got into testosterone at 25 because I had low testosterone, like a 70-year-old at 20. I don't know why. Either I banged my head too much or testicular injury from, I used to race BMX, stuff like that. But anyway, I got into testosterone young, and it made me go down that path. I loved that. Loved learning it and finding out about it. And then these guys were like, I found out, I'm like, they probably have a hot hormone issue.
Mm.
So here's some blood work. You should have your doctor check. And they come back to me and they're like, dude, my doctor doesn't know what this stuff is. And I'm like, what? And I was like, well, I got a doctor out of Miami, and I figured out how I could work with this doctor out of Florida who's really good at health and hormone. This is like 2011, right?
Yeah, way before the trend of now.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's more common to hear about this.
Yeah, no one even knew what this was. And I figured out a way, because these guys they're hiring me to do their health coach. I was just like kind of a concierge of like, hey, here's the paperwork, fill this out. Well, I'll get it back to them. Here's the blood work. Go to here's the closest location to your house. This kind of white glove concierge, just because I really looked at these guys. I wanted to learn about money and business from them, and they wanted to learn how to get fit and healthy and stuff like that from me. And so it was a cool exchange. And then eventually one of the guys was like, man, you should start a business doing this. And I was like, dude, I don't know how to start a business. He's like, you have a business. He's like, you're collecting money, you're offering a service. That's a business. But again, I had a story of like, well, I didn't go to college. I didn't go to school. I don't know. I don't have a healthcare background, right? I had all the stories that prevented me from doing it. And a lot of people continue their entire life for that story, right? And especially
a lot. Like you and I hang in a different crowd, and we're used to hearing these kind of conversations, but most people carry that same story. And I was the same way. I thought you had to be rich to make money, and you had to do this and that to make money. And nobody in my entire family ever owned a business. So like, why would I think I was ever going to own a business?
Same. Yeah. I had stories about money that rich people did bad stuff, or they had all these degrees or all these other things. Like, no, you just work hard, solve problems, and provide a service. So learning that, I was like, well, okay. So in 2012, I started my first company. It was a nationwide telemedicine. So I read, you want to talk about boring, reading DEA paperwork, like all this stuff to understand how you can legally do it and work. And so I launched that and kind of scaled that company. And I was fortunate to have a few like celebrities and people like that were clients of mine, people that you see in movies that got jacked for movies. Like some of those guys were guys I got to work with, ex-athletes and some of that stuff. So I had a pretty cool circle that started this thing off, where it was like referral only. It was kind of neat that, and half these guys, they won Super Bowls. I didn't know they were, so I wasn't big, I didn't follow sports and all this stuff. And I think they liked it. But so I built that over the course of time, and then had a couple, I built a supplement company, sold that, but it was like, tried it, built it, wasn't super successful, but kind of sold it off. And so I had a few things, just learned along the way, right? Spent a lot of time, money, and effort learning along the way. And then when COVID hit and everybody's trying to figure out telehealth, well, again, most doctors don't understand the hormone optimization. They're good at treating
Right.
sick. And so I had 150 physicians that were clients of my platform that worked with the doctors that did this. And these guys are calling me going, hey, you're the telehealth guy. My clinic's closed or what? My office is closed. Can't see patients. Can you help me out? And I started coming in and helping them with their practice on the telehealth side. But then I saw all these other efficiencies like patient acquisition and funnels and offers and all these other things that they're like, dude, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they're terrible. Historically, medical professionals are terrible at digital marketing.
Yeah. In business in general.
Yeah.
And part of it's, they don't learn any of it. And I think there's part of the system of keeping them in the hospital system versus being independent. Right.
Good point.
And so I started consulting in that space. And one thing that really helped kick off my career too is in 2019, I got to meet Tony Robbins, worked with Tony for a little bit. And then in 21, when he was launching his company, Life Force, he's like, hey, will you help me do it? They'd like you to partner with me. And I was like, yeah, you're my superhero. Of course I would. And so I got to be partners with Tony, still am, and launched Life Force. And then kind of like once Tony taps you, you've obviously passed some sort of sniff test from a business standpoint. And then, so fast forward to today, I can consult for about a dozen different large healthcare companies from 10 million to $500 million shareholders in some of those. And then I coach and consult for physicians. And then we build companies in healthcare. So we build telehealth companies, we build regenerative medicine companies, we run anything that someone might need. And that's kind of the entrepreneurial playbook of where we're at today and what we do.
You know what I like about that whole theme is you picked a lane that you're very interested in. You're very passionate about the health and fitness industry and dedicated a lot of time, money, and resources into learning that kind of subject and became an expert in that, built different types of businesses in that category, did well with that, got recognized by one of your mentors to be a part of that. But the whole thing that I'm following is that you stayed in your lane and you enjoyed that lane. And I see a big mistake with entrepreneurs nowadays. They're too like scatterbrained. They're always trying to do different things, and they're hearing about real estate over here and RV parks over here and peptides over here, and it's just like they're always distracted. And I think these people usually just never do well at all because they're always so distracted of everything outside of their expertise.
Yeah. And I think that was that early part when I was saying kind of tried some things, probably that 2012 to 2017, where something's working, but here's the reality is everything's built in the boring stuff, right? You're ADD like me and you're chasing the fun stuff and the flashy stuff. So I can't keep a car hardly 12 months because I'm always looking like I want another experience. And so, most entrepreneurs are kind of ADD and they're looking for the distraction that's more fun and exciting than the boring stuff that's required to build and scale. And that was me too. So I'm what about this? Or I could do that. Or I could, I could grow weed. It was like legal in Michigan. And I'm like, I don't smoke weed. I don't care. But like, why would I grow weed? It was like, but you're just pursuing these little things and you're right. Being laser focused on what you love and seeing the opportunity of how you can make money and have a big impact and continue to focus on that, doubling down on that just makes a lot more sense. And then as you get more skills and become more disciplined, I think you can diversify what you do, but not early. Otherwise you're going to scatter your energy. And I call it ROE, return on energy, right? So there's return on investment we talk about, but is there a return on your energy that you're putting into something, or is it just, you're just letting your ADD run the show instead of staying focused on the boring stuff and building?
Yeah. Most of the most successful entrepreneurs and investors that I know, that's one thing of advice they tell you is they only invest in things they know.
Yeah.
Like there's endless ways to invest and make money. You'll never find the end of that. But if you stick with what you know and invest in what you know and what your expertise is, you have a lot better odds than someone just coming out of the cold.
Yeah. I call that HLV, human life value. And so I look at like, if you're like, hey, Adam, let's go open a bar. I'm like, well, number one, I don't drink, don't want to work at a bar. I understand margins. So I can look at it and I'm like, it just doesn't, I'm not against it. It just doesn't align with my value. Right. So when I look at investments, the companies that I'm invested in or a shareholder in, I bring value to that company. I'm not, it's like, hey, we're doing oil rigs over here. Like maybe, there's some speculative opportunity and those can be great things or whatever. But I'm like, I don't know anything about that. It doesn't interest me. Even crypto took me a long time to even try to mess around. Probably way too late. So, and anytime I come into it, to your example, it's like, it's not my thing. Like, and it doesn't really work. And it's like, just stay in your lane and do the boring stuff.
So have you been diagnosed with ADD, or is that something that you just kind of feel like you have with the
Oh,
character?
just working with as many doctors as I work with, like I've the
You're
ADHD.
like, I check all the boxes.
Oh yeah, they're like, you're dyslexic, like you're less right learning issues growing up, and they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you're dyslexic." They're like, here's why it's good in business, because most people see what's in front of them.
Yeah.
You're seeing from behind and coming back the other way, and so it's like being an excellent problem solver and some of those things. So it's gifts.
Yeah.
Younger is a story of I'm an idiot. I'm a bad learner. I'm not a good student. I'm just, but having someone tell me like, these are some of the things. Now, again, I don't subscribe to any diagnosis of like from a victim standpoint. I understand that going 100 miles an hour and wanting variety and wanting to do 50 different things at once, part of how my brain operates, but being able to control that versus allowing that to be an excuse to not do what you need to do is a difference in maturity and growing.
Yeah, I love that answer because I've seen too many people really hold on to that excuse of being diagnosed ADHD, ADD, and then they go, "Oh, I can't do this because I've got this." And that to me is the victim mindset. You and I both don't believe in that kind of stuff. And I've had numerous guests on the show that have that exact same situation, and they achieve all kinds of levels of success and different variations of life. So understanding that you can either use it, like you said, as a tool, like you know what your strengths and your weaknesses are, or you can use it as an excuse. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people look for an excuse to justify where they're not at. And that's just one of the easy labels they can hang their hat on.
100%. Versus again, I had a story that I didn't have a dad around, struggled with alcohol, single mom, all that didn't go to college. I have a terrible story. And it's like, yeah, man, but that story doesn't serve tomorrow. And at some point in your life, you have to look at it and say, hey, everything's kind of up to me. You know, like I'm sure maybe you were abused or maybe like, I'm sorry, but there comes a certain point to just say, I don't want to stay there mentally or maybe physically. I want to go here, which is the possibility, which a lot of people struggle with. The problem's easy because the problem is already, it's existed, right? So like if I have a bad history, it's easy for me to go back to history. It's certain. And so we can connect to that versus the possibility of like, hey man, I want to build $100 million company. I want to help 10,000 doctors do this. I want to, let's like, well, that requires you to take action, have a plan, and it's accountability. I'd rather just point blame back at the past because I can't fix that. I can't control it. So I can there. And it's like, dude, the clock's ticking. You're 40. How often are you gonna be mad about the thing that happened at 10?
Yeah, I think it's a big issue where we see politics, we see all kinds of stories and things going on right now, and just kind of people driving in different directions. But it all comes back down to personal accountability, and nobody likes to hear that. The people that are exhibiting that like to hear it, but everybody else is not. They don't want to hear that as a reason.
Yes. Yeah. There's so much within our own control. If I'm focused on, like you said, politics, some party, they're doing this, and it's like, hey, dude, how's your marriage? How's your health? What's your financial game plan? Like, and there's parts of where it's like, oh yeah, but that requires me to take accountability. But then I got to take blame and ownership. Can I just blame those people for the thing they're doing over there that doesn't even affect my life? It's goofy, but you're right. It's just an excuse to deflect responsibility.
Yeah, we both see way too many people getting online nowadays, especially on X, just complaining about all kinds of things, politics, Trump, Biden, whoever. They're just complaining about every single thing. And you click on their profile and you can tell that their core values are shot and they're not even taking care of themselves first. Like you said, you had that list. How's your fitness? How's your business? How's your relationships?
Yeah.
They're not even paying any attention to that kind of stuff because they're too busy looking around everybody else and complaining about stuff. And I think what I said, I made a post a few weeks ago that was relevant to this. I'm going to try to remember it. It said something about you're not allowed to complain about politics until you have all your other shit in order.
Yeah. That should be that way. I mean, it should
go fix yourself first. You know?
Which is why I spent most of my life not really caring. I'm like, they're liars and they're liars too.
Yes.
Like, what I have to make sure I'm paying attention to is keeping my house in order.
Yeah.
Once my house is in order, so it's like, it's also, we talk about leadership. Leadership starts with me. I have to address my flaws. I got to do the work I got to do on me. Then I can set a standard and lead by example to my family, and then lead a team, and then I can lead maybe within my community. And that's, I think, how it should look. And then the further out you're concerned should mean that you figured out a lot of stuff in between you and that. So if you want to go change, green energy or something like that. Well, dude, there's be a lot of stuff. You better have some stackable evidence between here and green energy that you figured out to show that you're responsible enough and you've done the process and the work to really have an opinion on that. Not just because you went to school or studied something,
Right.
but it's holistic, right? Otherwise, it's like you and I were car guys, and you wouldn't drive a car with one flat tire. Most people are driving their life around with like 3 flat tires, right? It's like, oh, I got money, but relationships suck. No spiritual relationship. I'm not healthy. Or it's like you're super jacked, but like you can't hold a job. You can't have a girlfriend. Like, it's strange to me. So for me, I'm like, I need to have all of those things working at the same time to build and also lead by example.
I'm a big fan of Stoicism, and I'm sure you studied as well. I can tell by the way you exhibit your life. The summary of Stoicism for most people who are not familiar, and I know a lot of listeners are because we talk about it, is just controlling what you can control.
Mhm.
You can only control what you control. You can't control other people. You can't control what politicians do. You can't control what your neighbors do. You can't control what anybody says on the internet. You can't control when things are going to happen to you, but you can control your own actions, your own thoughts, your own words. And I like that you kind of painted that picture of leadership. It seems like it's in layers and it grows and expands and influence, but it starts with that inner core, like you as an individual, like how are you leading yourself? And believe it or not, people, if you're leading by example and you're doing things the way you say you're going to do, it's going to be pretty evident. People are going to spot you and understand that this person does exactly what they say they're going to do. And that you're going to gain more respect for that next level of leadership. Like you talked about, maybe it's the family is the next level, individual, then family, then friends, then peers. Then it kind of grows and grows like that. I
Yes.
think the problem nowadays, Adam, is with the internet. A lot of people want to skip steps.
Well, they want to, it's lack of authenticity and
Yeah.
not true integrity, right? So it's like, if I can show something and I can get Tom to believe something about me, that maybe it's not true, but I can hold up that belief for the world. And that's a lot of social media influence. There's so many people you meet, they got all the followers, they got all the stuff. You meet them in person, I'm like, you're a total fraud.
Yeah.
And, that's can be a hard part of, I think, guys like you and I that are like legit, and we can get mixed in with the, hey, you're, and I'm like, and you can't even enter the conversation of some of the
We definitely get that. I get that weekly. I'm sure you do too.
yeah. And I'm just going to let them go, because as soon as I engage, I'm like coming right down to their life.
Again, we can't control what other people say or do, right?
But I love the stoicism piece. And I think the simplicity of it too is responsibility. And I'll use an analogy of, let's say you and I are at a car show and you ding my car with your car. Was it your fault? Probably, but I'm still responsible how I respond, how I react, my emotions, right? I think a lot of people, it's like when the blame is somewhere else, responsibility is out the door. And that's stoicism. And there's a piece of that of just, I know I'm responsible for my thoughts, my emotions, all of those kind of things. And when I so focus on that, you maybe you've read or heard of the book Extreme Ownership by Jocko.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Changed my life because I spent a lot of my time being a victim. I spent a lot of time blaming, oh, I didn't have a dad, or I had all these other problems. When I realized, like, dude, own it all. Own every part of it. And the part of it that's beautiful is like sitting here today in front of you and having 0 regrets in my life. Does that mean I had no mistakes? Oh, dude, my mistakes would stack to the moon. But I'm so grateful, and gratitude's a big part of it, just to be here where I'm at in this moment, that all of those things had to happen. Is there stuff I would have done different? Yeah, but you can't control, again, can't control it. So it's like, and so I'm just grateful for being here. And I'm grateful when I stay grateful for why I'm here, I'm more likely to see the plan and the possibility of the path of the future. I'm inviting that in versus driving, looking through my rearview mirror.
Yeah. Being present's hard enough for most people because they're typically just focused on the past. And it's not always the negative past, right? A lot of times people, like we joke about the Uncle Ricos who were like the high school quarterback. And so people lean too much on the past and what they did 20 years ago. And they're not really focused on today. And they're definitely not focused on tomorrow because they're just kind of going through the motions. It's like a routine. It's the same old every single day. We run into these people 10 years down the road and they haven't changed the situations. They're still complaining about the same things and stories. Bro, like, why haven't you done anything about it yet? Maybe someone's listening to this. Like, why haven't you done anything about the things you complain about yet?
Yeah. It's tough. And I think for me, and maybe you can relate to this, there becomes a level of isolation because my tolerance to be in those environments is very low, right? Meaning that it's like I got acquaintances and relationships. And that's like every time I'm with them, I got to hear about their college football years. And I'm like, bro, you're 50. It's, I want to talk about what you're going to do.
Yeah.
What are you working on? What is the thing in yourself you've identified that you've been aggressively working on? Like for me, 2026 is like, I need to be more peaceful. I need to find more peace, more presence. Even recently, like wearing this device and watching my sleep. And so if you and I talk, I'm going to be like, oh, hey man, you check your HRV. I'm doing mine. I'm doing this. I'm trying this, doing all these things because I'm so focused on the present. How can I learn from the present and improve the future? And I think that most people miss that because, again, there's a level of accountability and uncertainty that scares them versus always talking about the past and believing like that because there's no uncertainty there. It is
Right.
what it is. And people love that. They gravitate to it. And it's a tough way to really enjoy an abundant life by living in the past.
Yeah, one of the sentences that resonates in my mind, and I wish I could attribute it to whoever it came from, but it goes to something like, I'll paraphrase. It says, spend less time around people who talk about remember when and
Yeah.
spend more time around people who talk about imagine when.
Yes, I love that. That's beautiful. And I feel bad because I have those friends and it's like, I love them to death.
We love them,
But I'm like,
they're not gonna elevate you. They're not gonna push you. They're not
yeah,
gonna.
hey, happy 4th of July text. It's tough to have conversations because I don't want to be there and listen, or if they reach out and they have a question or something, I can maybe provide value, happy to, but I couldn't go on vacation with you. I'll go nuts, and it, people don't understand that. I'll never forget some things. Like I remember wanting to talk to this like pretty successful business guy. And he's like, you should join my mastermind. And I was like, join your mastermind? I want to have a conversation with her. He's like, I charge $5,000 an hour. And I'm like, what a jerk. Who's he think he is? But what I've realized over time too, is just people will waste your time.
Mhm.
Or don't get it. I get it now. Like there's certain people I will pay $5,000, $10,000, 20 or whatever, because I want to be able to get that information from them. And I understand that the value in it because people that won't pay usually won't pay attention. And so it's like, again, I share there's like a little tidbit story of like the evolution of understanding the value of time, the value of information, the value of growth, personal growth. And that a lot of times people don't value it. And that's one of the first things I ask people. I'm like, tell me how much you invest in yourself. And they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, there's time. Like you can watch podcasts, read books and stuff, but are you also maybe putting money towards yourself, try to find a return? And it took me a long time. My ego's in the way of like coaching, masterminds, or some of those things. Like, it's not weakness, dude. All the guys that everybody worships on TV on Sunday or their baseball, like, they all have coaches.
All of them. Multiple coaches a lot of times.
Yes. Yes. And so like, that's a part of it too, I think, as it goes to the leadership and personal growth of if you've never made the move of paying, even if you pay money to be somewhere, you're like, it wasn't for me, you learn a lesson.
Yeah.
And and then you can find the next thing. Right. And so I've done that too. And so I think there's different aspects of how we can check ourselves on personal growth. It's like, what am I doing? I read sometimes, or like I read a book every 2 weeks, or it's like, I'm signing up to and committing my time and my money to be in this thing because I'm expecting an outcome of personal growth for the future.
Right.
So I think that stuff's important too.
Yeah, I think sometimes people get too clouded with all the different opinions and all the different strategies and frameworks. They're paying attention to too many things. They'll listen to 10 different podcasts like this. They'll go read all the books from all the big names. They'll join 2 or 3 really low level group coaching things with some guru that's flexing a Lamborghini for them.
Right.
Then they're trying to consolidate all this information and trying to come up with an action plan, and they're confused as hell. And I'm not a big fan of that. I always think like, if you're going to hire a mentor, work with that mentor.
Yes.
Until, you reach a level that maybe you're not going to grow from that and you need to get to the next one. And that's great because you should eventually graduate from mentors.
Yes.
But I think too many people just try to take all these inputs and then they get kind of frozen and they don't do anything. And it kind of annoys me. Like I won't even coach people if they're working with another coach. I'll say, I'll tell you what, I'd love to work with you, but go ahead and finish up what you're working on over there. And, I'm not going to rush you on that, but when you're ready, come work with me. because I don't want to have the batting heads and the other guy said this. And it's
Yeah.
just, it's like, what are you doing? Like, why are you paying people if you're not going to learn from them?
Yes. No, that's great said. And I think part of it too is just that the personal commitment of, it's like, you could tell me, hey, Adam, I got $1,000 for you up in Dallas. I ain't driving to Dallas for $1,000. Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that would drive up there.
Oh,
to
yeah.
go, look, just, it isn't me. And so, but you reach certain levels in, I think, business and how you value your time, and I look at that because I believe, like, if you don't pay attention. And to your point too, this other part of, like, just, I'm going to bring in as much information as possible, but I don't have any skin in the game. Right.
No.
So that are all the podcasts, all the books, but they're not really taking a lot of action because there's no accountability. And there's really no skin in the game other than the time that they've spent, but they still don't value their time that much because they don't value the money and the time together. And they wonder why they don't go anywhere. Right. And they feel it, because a lot of us, we want the feeling of the Lamborghini or something like that, but we don't really want to do the work to get the Lamborghini. Right. And so I think there's a part of this, and the internet's great, the social media, of showing you what the feeling could look like. And it's, just take a picture in front of this and get the likes and the comments, but it's not real. And our brain knows it's not real. And that we constantly feel out of integrity with ourselves, which is a slippery slope of just leaning back into the false, the girlfriend online and all these other goofy stuff versus the real, like, you and I physically know each other. Right. So I had to, last week or whatever, and like, we see physically, like, there's a part of that in our brains, our human anatomy needs that. And when we continue in this false world and this false belief, because I can read books about great entrepreneurs, I can dream about what that would be like, and it gives me this false feeling of what it could be like, but there's zero action. And then my brain tells me, like, you're fake, you're not real, you can't do it. And then eventually they get stuck in that information overload phase.
Now, I'm going to give some advice to listeners on how to determine who to work with, because I think this would be a good topic. We're kind of touching on it. When I look at potential mentors, I tend to work backwards from the challenge or the goals that I would like to achieve for myself. And so anyone listening or watching this, try to put a dollar value on the problem that you want to solve.
That's
right. Is this a $10,000 problem that you're trying to solve in your life? Or is this $100,000? Like, use big numbers. Is it $1 million problem or challenge that you're trying to learn how to do? Right. Once you can attribute a dollar value, generally speaking, to whatever that problem is, you should be willing to invest at least 10% of your own money to go solve that problem. Wouldn't you? Like, if I'm selling something and if I gave you $10 and you gave me $100 back every single time, I'd just keep feeding you, Adam. Like, here's $10 at a time. And if you give me $1 million back every time I gave you 100,000, I'd be writing you checks for 100,000. Like, who wouldn't do that? Right. But
I shouldn't say philosophy,
but people don't really see it. That's a very simplified way of understanding what your investment level should be. So if you only have $10,000 problems, you should be at least figuring out how to find $1,000 to solve that with somebody that can teach you that. The other flip side of this is, don't go too big, right? Let's say that you are just starting a business and you want to get to $1 million revenue. And that could happen in the first year with the right person, but don't go hire the guy that's got a $500 million revenue company to teach you that, because
they're cool and they have all the followers
he's got all the stuff, but he's so far beyond that, he can't even remember that level. And it's back when he was at your level that things were completely different than they are today. The tools are different. The strategies are different.
Yeah. So
the dollar value is different. So
I see that. It's friends of mine that they're doing really, really well, right? Like, they're making millions of dollars a year, and they're going to hire the billionaire guy at $1 million a year because it's more of a flex and ego.
Yeah.
I'm like, you really think they can solve your problem? Or are you just excited that you get to talk to them 30 minutes once a month?
It's
like,
a selfie.
Yeah. And you could tell people, it's crazy to me, but you're right. And because there's a lot of folks that do it, and there's, sometimes there's people I can sense maybe want to work with me because they like to just be close. And I'm like, I don't really see the problem. Like, I don't really see what we're doing together.
Yeah.
I can't have you pay me to just talk. It'll kill me. I don't care how much money. There's not a dollar value for that. But you're right with that same analogy. It's the same thing even for the people I work with. I'm like, my goal is to 10x whatever you invest with me. And again, there's some situation you might have a $10,000 problem. Like, you should be able to pay someone $1,000 to solve that. That's pretty easy. You got $1 million problem. There's less people that can probably solve that problem for you. But if they can, and they have done it multiple times, they have a great track record, dude, pay them 100. I had some docs in my office here just a few months ago, and they paid me 100 grand a year.
Mm-hmm.
I helped them build a $20 million company. And I was like, do you guys feel like you got your money's worth? They're like, we would have paid you $1 million. And I was like, yeah, for next year. And they're like, we're going to still pay.
Yeah. Hey, Adam, you're charging too little. You need to raise your rates now.
No, that was a great occurrence. But the point is, like you said, it's valid. And I think people don't value themselves and their future and their time enough to see that. So I think it's a cool conversation.
Yeah, because here's how it plays out. If you go hire overqualified mentor, coach, they're going to teach you things in a webinar group or meeting, and you're going to fill up notebooks of stuff that's amazing. It's not bad information, but you're not going to be able to apply it for 10 years.
Right.
Yeah. So you're going to be nodding your head. This is great. You're sharing so much. And then you're going to just put these in a little book, and they're just going to disappear and collect dust because you're still going to be stuck at 0 trying to figure out 1 million. And 10 years later, when you get to 100 million, then maybe you could bust those books out and they're actually useful then.
It's funny. I've never heard anyone else really mention that, but it's so true. Don't go too much bigger than the problem you want to solve.
So I want to get into the entrepreneurship. I guess let's talk about deal assessment, right?
Okay. Yeah.
You've started and helped scale a lot of different companies. We already determined your interest levels in the healthcare space, but even then there's a lot of different business models. So what do you look at in terms of deal structure, if it's something you want to pursue or not?
Yeah, it's a great question. And weekly I'll get some medical device, or like even this thing I'm wearing. This is a newer company that I think is doing a better job than Whoop. They have a different model. I should have documentation this week. I won't say the company. I have an equity consulting, a great deal to do this. But I look at the company. I see the problem they want to solve, and I see the opportunity for me to be able to solve it. Right. So again, I think it's just me being a person of integrity. I will not take money or do a deal with somebody I don't believe I bring that human life value to. And so I look at that first. That's the first lens at human life value. Like, do I see a place that I can provide value? Forget the money, the equity, all that stuff. That is irrelevant right now. It's just do I see a path for me to provide value? If I do, then I have to look at how much value can I potentially provide. And I want to look at it through the lens of like a win-win of, I'm not going to ask for the moon unless I know I can deliver the moon. I'm going to ask for, here's what I'd like. And if things work well, some sort of I just want to always be fair, and I always want to have that reputation, right? That's why I get a lot of opportunity. I don't market those things. They come to me, which is cool. And trusted people are like, hey, this would be something good for Adam. I'm not selling, they're coming to me. And so it's nice to have that. But I'm just making sure it aligns with my values and my ability to create value in it. Otherwise, I don't look at it. I think there's different kind of deals. Like you said, I'd love to buy an air conditioning company, and there's so many, there's so many different things. Yeah. But what I learned from like Tony Robbins is really smart with everything he's done. I look for operators. So a business like something like that is like, you have to have a good operator. So or there's a good operating team, because I'm not running the team. I'm not an operator. I sold my company, my telehealth company. I didn't share that. I sold that at 23. I was like, I'm done running a company without having these specific rules of engagement of what I want specifically, because I don't really need to. And I want to live life kind of my terms as much as possible. And that's the way I'm going to do it. So I think I just understand the deal structure around how much value I can bring, what my commitment is to bringing that value from a time standpoint. That's how, and does it line up with something I can, I'll have like a medical device thing for erectile dysfunction or something. Like, hey, here's this new machine. I'm like, I could probably make some introductions, dude, but like,
just not what I'm into. Yeah.
It's a lot of time on it. Like, it's cool. I see what it does. Let me see. Or and a lot of times I just connect people, and I'm like, I don't need anything. Just you two, something works out. Praise God. If it doesn't work,
goodwill comes back if it works out for them.
Well, I'm big on goodwill for sure.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I look at the deals, and also one of the factors I look at is the sanity level, because some of these things are going to be a lot more time consuming than others. And then some, you already have the skill set to be able to get that, or the contacts or the financial to back it. And then the rest of it, I look at just, is it going to increase or improve my quality of life or decrease it? And that even goes on a client by client basis. Some people can be a real pain in the ass, and some people are a joy to work with. And You can ask qualifying questions and get to those pretty quick nowadays with enough reps. You start to see that.
100%. There's plenty of clients I say no to, a lot of deals I say no to. And it's a lot of that. Like I said, my 2026 kind of goal was like peace.
Yeah.
Protecting my peace, because when I'm at peace and I'm in this place of just joy, and I love stress. I'm an super intense person, but I know that like my power is when I'm calm and unemotional and focused. If something's going to stress me out and frustrate me, I'm just not doing it. Like the World Cup, I'm like, dude, I'm not going. Too many people. I don't love soccer that much. I already know what my nervous system is going to do. I'm like, I'll watch it on TV, and I think I've watched 25 minutes total of one soccer game just because it was on my house and a bunch of people are. Because that's the other part too. Going back to that is like, there's certain things I care about and a lot of things I don't care about.
Right.
And if a lot of the things I don't care about is really a lot of what that does, I'm not going to be into it. And so I don't want to like commit to something that is going to be painful for me to do. I want to be, it's like, the political side, running for being on the township and all that stuff. Like, dude, it's volunteer, right? I paid money to run a campaign and get elected, and I'm all in. It doesn't matter if it's volunteer, you're paying me $1 million a year. I'm all in. I love it. I want to help. I want to serve. I want to solve problems. I want to bring value. And so it's like, and it could challenge the peace side of me because it was just, you're dealing with government stuff. You're dealing with different personalities.
Everybody's got an opinion.
Everybody's got a priority that may not be aligned. And so you just deal with that stuff. But part of it too is I'm also excited when I'm growing. So if I feel I'm growing and I'm like, ooh, why is that bugging you? Or, oh, this is a problem. Oh, we got to work on, right? And so our problems reveal possibility for progress, right? And so I love that. I love that lens. So if it's something that's not challenging me, it's just kind of boring, then I'm like, whatever. But I like to be challenged and have to make sure I'm providing value to it.
So what was the driver? So you're successful, you got businesses, you have groups that you run, you're heavily involved in your church. What made you decide to get into local politics?
Yeah, I think it started with a conversation with a pastor friend of mine too. He said something that, hey, local government's the most important government. We get too distracted by like what Trump's doing or the senator and all that. Local government really, really matters. And I was like, yeah, I agree. I agreed with that. And about 2 weeks later, I had some friends who were like, hey, because I'm on the advisory board for a local nonprofit here. And a couple of people from that were like, man, you should run for local township. And I was like, what? Like,
what's that?
Yeah. And then I was like, and then we just shortly after that kind of bought the house we're in now, which is the foreseeable future home. And I was like, all right, let me check that out. And I just remembered the conversation with that pastor friend. I was like, all right, I agreed. Local government's important. A couple of people who, I think are pretty smart people think that I would be a good value. Let me see. Right. And then you look into it and
so really this pattern started coming back to you.
Yeah. And eventually I feel like God's like, hey, go. I'm like, all right, I don't argue. And so I put my name in the hat and won. And it was cool because it was such a new world. Again, learning, getting my butt kicked. Everything you think is going to happen is not everything what's going to happen. And you just learn so much. But it was beautiful too, because I made so many new relationships. I was joking with my wife, like we have like my mom and her parents are kind of like the only old people that we really know anymore. And now I got like all these older people that just love me, that voted for me. They're like in their 70s, walking blocks, talking about this guy, like they're my grandparents. And I was just like, I felt so blessed and so humbled to have so many people come out and support me. And just like it took my level of gratitude and empathy for strangers to a whole new level. And this level of humility too, of realizing like, man, the higher you're called, the more humble you got to become. And I think that doesn't happen in politics. The higher they go, the more they think their poop doesn't stink. And I saw that. And so it's like, I was like, well, I really think I can make a difference. I really think I can impact, and too much is given, much is required. And who knows where that path is. I don't have any big plans for the future beyond it, but it's interesting the attention you start getting even at like a township level of different people from Congress to Senate to like want to be around you because you're like a man of integrity. You built some business, you actually done something other than being a lifetime politician. And like you do what you say you're going to do. And wow, that's wild for people to grasp sometimes.
And even on a smaller level than that, because the Woodlands, I mean, I've been here since 2008. And so I've got to see the community grow and it evolve and different things get developed. And it's just been cool to watch all that happen. But even on a small level, back when I was the president of the Toastmasters Club, one of the biggest ones in the Woodlands area, like just going around town, people would recognize you because you see
Yeah.
hundreds of people over years go through that program and how it changed their life. And it's kind of cool. And then they're referring their friends and family to come join. And so, yeah, you can imagine. Because I think I like what you talk about the local government. You have to be more humble because we have to actually live with those people that are voting for us.
Yeah.
They're in direct contact with us a lot of times in public. Whereas you get to bigger platforms, you're less around the people like the state reps. They're not around us.
Right.
DC reps, they're definitely not around us.
Mhm.
So they have no idea what's going on at the local level anymore.
Yeah. And there's just a part of it of there's one side of it. Again, I started a telehealth company in 2012. So most of my interactions like this.
Yeah.
And so there's also a part of just like you said, like being around town, meeting people. Like I met the amount of people I know in person, like that are local to me, like 5,000x in 90 days. And it was neat. And again, it doesn't go to my head. Like when someone's like, "Oh, Director Lamb," I'm like, "Stop it. It's weird. I don't even call doctors doctor."
No.
So it just like, I'm just Adam. I'm just a regular dude, and that's a part of it. And I remind a lot of my political friends, especially my board, like, we're just township director. We're not special. Like even when the 4th of July parade they did, and the guy's like, I didn't know that's what usually most directors do and is get in it. And I was like, they're like, "Hey, do you want to be in the parade?" I'm like, "Well, no, I'm just going to say I want to watch it. I'm just going to sit with my family and watch it." And I was the only director who didn't. And I'm not knocking it. I think it's cool, like
Right.
kind of routine and tradition and stuff like that. And I probably, if they were like, "Hey, this is what we always do," I probably would have done that. But they asked me if I was like, "Dude, just put me in the back room. Like, let me solve problems. I don't need to be up front and center. It's just not really who I am. I want to be in the executive session, solving the big things that move and shake things for our community." And so I'm just wired a little different for it. Maybe that's a good thing. I don't know.
I think it goes back to you and your character though, because we've both become comfortable putting ourselves out there and our opinions, and we're okay by living by example and understanding there's literal cameras everywhere. And like you said, how you act when the camera's not on you or when you're not with your wife, like all those things kind of matter. Your character is like, it's either steady or it's fake. And when you have a solid character in all aspects, you don't care if cameras are on all the time. And now that you got, like you said, 5,000 new contacts, you don't really care that you got all these different eyeballs watching you too, because if you just have that character be able to live by an example, then you're okay with that.
Yeah. And I think that to me is like true freedom is being that authentic version of yourself, right?
Yeah.
This is who I am. If you see me at the gym, this is who my pastor gets. This is who my wife gets. This is my kids get, like the people I work with. And that is the most freeing. That's like,
it's super easy. It's way easier than all the other crap that people pull off, man.
And is everyone going to like me? No, I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter. If my wife doesn't like me, that matters. If my kids don't like me, that matters.
Yeah.
I might do some adjustments of my character and some things like that to work on it if I get some negative feedback. But like Joe Schmo down the road, that's like, "You said this," and I'm like, "Hey, bro, I love you. I don't know you, but I don't care."
Right.
I can't try to please everybody. I think I don't trust people pleasers. Anyone that's trying to please everybody, I'm like, that person can't be trusted.
I really enjoyed this conversation as I thought I would.
Great. Thank you so much for having me on here. This is awesome.
So if people want to get a hold of you or figure out what you're up to nowadays, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah, I mean, probably go to maybe my Instagram, Adam Lamb 33, and DM me. I usually am in there and respond. That's probably the easiest thing. I mean, it's Adam Lamb 33 on all my things. So LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook or whatever.
Got it.
Hit me up.
So I'm going to give you the opportunity to give the final word to somebody that's been listening to this, that they need to invest in themselves, take some action, get the results they've been talking about. What's the next step for them?
Yeah, I think the next step is to get super clear on what you actually want. And the first part of that is if you can get clear on exactly what you want, you have to figure out what the next action step is. If you're struggling to get clear on what you actually want, you need to find somebody that can help you get clear. Most people don't know what they actually want. They just know they don't want what they got. And that's very hard to lead if you don't know where you want. I was using the analogy of dinner. Where do you guys want to go for? I don't know. You want to go to, it's like, dude, it's
Perfect.
Right. And so most people do not know what they want. So when you can submit to that potential truth of like, I don't really know what I want. Cool. Hire someone to help you figure out what you want, and then find somebody who's already got what you want and go there. But don't hire somebody who's got what you think you might want, because it may not be what you want. So I think hopefully that's helpful with taking.
Good. Yeah. Work backwards from your goals, guys.
Amen.
If you guys enjoyed this episode and you got something from it, this show only grows because you share the show with people, and that's how we reach people out. We don't have any ads. We don't have any BS on the show. You guys made this a top 1% show, and over, I don't even know how many countries nowadays, but love to hear from you guys. If you want to reach me or Adam, send some emails or hit us through the website. We'll be happy to relay the message to him and ask him any questions you have. So with that, guys, thanks for hanging out. We will see you on the next episode.